The masked figure lounging on a dark throne is introduced as Ja Kurai, the absolute king of the demon world. It is revealed that countless millennia have passed since he first seized and ruled that hellish throne. Panel by panel, images show weary heroes finally reaching his presence, only to stand trembling before his looming blade. Each would-be champion who dared confront him is shown falling, his lifeless hand and Ja Kurai's shadow emphasizing the hopelessness of their challenge. As the war between demons and humans drags on, the images shift to human women warriors and mages, while narration explains how females became the overwhelming majority as men perished. The devastated Earth is depicted from space as the narration explains that humanity, barely able to reproduce, now teeters on the brink of extinction. Ja Kurai appears again, frowning as the narration recounts how humanity somehow reached his throne once more and even managed to corner him. He then straightens his posture with a mocking smile, acknowledging that humans have finally acquired power surpassing even that of the Demon King. The scene cuts to two determined young women, their expressions firm and silent as they stare him down in tense anticipation. From off-panel, a voice casually calls out to the great Demon King Ja Kurai, breaking the heavy atmosphere. One of the girls calmly declares that he is their greatest and final enemy, adding that a single swing of her sword can end everything now. Silhouetted against the light, they hesitate only to request that he reveal his real face first, even asking a comrade named Ansuto if she agrees. Ansuto nods with composed seriousness, remarking that he apparently has not shown his true face for thousands of years. With a soft, almost wistful gaze, she adds that they simply want to see his real face at least once before the end. The archer playfully raises an arrow, cheerfully threatening to keep shooting until his mask shatters if he refuses, while saying she would also love to see it. Another girl leans toward the swordswoman Kiruru, saying she personally wants to see his face, while Kiruru grumbles that she just wants to chop his head off and be done. Devious then folds her arms angrily, saying she wants to punch the face of the monster who turned her entire life into nothing but battles, while a friend notes how badly she wants to beat him. Shown from behind, Ja Kurai stiffens and concedes that they are right, as if their insistence has finally worn him down. He raises his elegant hand to his ornate mask, agreeing to show it at least this one last time, the moment laden with finality. A thin panel shows the mask slipping away from his face, his long ears exposed, heightening the suspense before anyone can react. All five girls are then depicted with stunned, wide-eyed expressions, some blushing and others gasping, clearly shaken by what they see. Over a black background, his inner monologue reveals that even most of his subordinates never saw his face, and he himself has not looked at it in ages, wondering how long it has truly been. When his own eyes come into view, he is startled to see a silver-haired man grinning somewhat miserably back at him and disparages this wretched visage. Smiling faintly, he turns to the heroines and asks if his appearance surprises them, while internally calling it a pathetic sight. Standing tall in his long coat, he explains that although he looks about their age, his immortality and agelessness have kept him youthful for centuries. A close-up on his face shows the weight of eras in his eyes as he states that he is someone who has lived through unimaginably long years. The girls, sweating nervously, whisper among themselves in shock, and one blurts out in disbelief, wondering if this elegant figure is actually a man. With a composed smile, Ja Kurai turns his head and begins addressing them more casually, as if testing their reactions. He spreads his arms in a theatrical gesture, asking if they are satisfied now and calling them 5 strong and beautiful Valkyries, to their collective fluster. The group of heroines instantly melts into bashful chaos, cheeks flushed as they echo words like beautiful and wonder aloud if something is happening to them. Ja Kurai tilts his head in confusion, wondering if he said something strange, insisting to himself that he merely offered them a simple compliment. Suddenly realization dawns on him, and he dramatically concludes that the number of men in the human world must have plummeted. An illustration of a happy couple dancing appears as narration explains that these girls have led lives without any real contact with romance or intimacy. Watching their awkward reactions, Ja Kurai inwardly judges them to be rather pitiful when seen from that perspective. He then states matter-of-factly that this situation cannot be helped, accepting it as an undeniable fact of the era. Lovely comments in awe that such observations come from someone who has observed humans for thousands of years, while another girl nervously protests that it cannot be true. Kure addresses them more gently, saying they should feel proud of their own beauty instead of being ashamed. He closes his eyes and muses that if he had emerged victorious, it would have been a waste to bury such lovely bodies, even wondering if it would be better to add more flattering words. Suto abruptly cuts in, claiming that if that had happened she would probably have possessed them and made them her own, to the girl's dismay. Kure then solemnly begins what he calls his final words, regretting that he will never witness the new world they will create after his defeat. Raising his voice, he says that since that future is closed to him, he wishes for the heroines to find happiness as women in the coming world once he falls. Kiruru is shown suddenly swaying and bending over, her vision blurring as the Demon King's emotional speech hits her in an unexpected way. She abruptly stands up and screams that she has just been proposed to, her cry of marriage echoing through the chamber while the others stare. Blushing heavily, she insists that no woman could resist if such a handsome man seriously courted her, revealing how quickly her heart has been captured. The scene jumps to the battlefield aftermath where one girl clings to Kure, declaring that the fight is over and that they will now protect him. Two others, red-faced, gush about his poise and marvel that such a wonderful man exists, even admitting that perhaps not all demons are detestable. Lovely smiles with starry eyes and vows not to let anyone finish off her precious favorite, repeating to herself that protecting him is the same as marrying him. In a burst of determination, she mentally concludes that there is no longer any choice but for them to get married. Chaos erupts as several heroines cling possessively to Kure, shouting over each other that he is theirs and scolding Lovely for pressing too close to the immortal demon. One of them, cheeks glowing, calmly proposes that since the battle is over they should simply announce the Demon King dead and take him home with them for now. Lovely cheerfully suggests that the five of them can later discuss who will keep him as a husband, while Kure panics and shouts in protest. The next panel shows him tightly wrapped in ropes or restraints, howling that he should have died an honorable foe and begging to be killed, while the girls happily decide to haul him away. Narrowing one eye in grim resolve, he thinks that since it has come to this, he only has one desperate measure left. He then strains against the bindings, shouting that with the last of his magical power he will self-destruct rather than endure this humiliation, while the girls panic at the glowing energy. One heroine cries out in horror that his body is filling with destructive magic, realizing he truly intends to blow himself up. They quickly notice that the source of the swelling magical energy is concentrated in the horn on his head as he collapses forward. Suto throws out her hand and begins casting a powerful binding spell, telling Shiny that the rest of the plan is up to her sword. Kiruru leaps forward with a ferocious downward strike, the blade whistling as it slices toward Kure's horn. Sparks and fragments fly as the horn is severed cleanly in one stroke, prompting Kure's shocked thought that these girls are far more capable than he assessed. Kiruru stares in dismay, asking if she misjudged her strength, while Devious reassures Shiny not to worry about the intensity of the blow. Suto then explains with a small smile that without his horn Kure no longer has enough magic left to take his own life. Lovely brightens as she remembers something important, saying that as long as Ja-kun stays quiet everything should be fine. All five heroines gather around, beaming, as they call Lovely's idea brilliant and suggest dealing with his other horn later, an image that becomes the last sight Kure sees in his castle. A close-up of Kure's eye-opening signals his return to consciousness as he awakens somewhere unknown. He looks up at unfamiliar trees and sky, realizing with a chill that he did not die after all and wonders where the girls have brought him. Inspecting himself, he notices a strange jewel embedded in his chest, while Kiruru cheerfully tells him the place is quiet and pretty, asking if he likes it. Kure demands to know where he is and what they plan to do with him, while Kiruru feigns innocence and begins to answer vaguely. Smiling with sparkling eyes, she says she will not tell him everything because it would be troublesome if he immediately returned to his castle. She then adds coyly that she would be very happy if he would call her Shiny, clearly fishing for affection. The other girls barge into the scene grumbling that Shiny is cheating by getting so close to him alone, their jealousy obvious. Devious stands to introduce herself proudly, proclaiming that a powerful man like him clearly needs an equally strong woman by his side. Lovely steps forward with a dreamy expression, announcing that she is the archer who once aimed for his body but from now on intends to target his heart as well. Kiruru, in her hood, quietly states that her name is Kiruru and that she will always be watching Ja-kun. Ann Suto raises her hand with poise and says she is Ann Suto, promising to serve him as a proper wife using the magic she has honed. Ja-kurei's eyes widen in horror as he admits internally that for the first time in thousands of years he truly regrets the words he himself spoke earlier. Surrounded by their smiling faces, he laments that he seems to have attracted some terrifying humans, while Shiny vows that he will now spend his life with his beloved person in this house. An exterior shot of a large ivy-covered mansion accompanies the declaration that from this day forward Ja-kun will live there with the 5 women. Shiny, blushing, confesses she would have preferred to monopolize him, though captions note that Ja-kurei himself cannot accept any of these heroines' bold declarations. She explains that the only reason he is not alone with her is because the others are simply far too persistent to shake off. Ja-kurei stares at them wearily, sweat beading on his face as he wonders if these women are even mentally stable. Looking down at them surrounding his bed, he panics that these maniacs now hold the fate of the world and desperately wants to flee from them at once. His gaze narrows as he wonders if there is any possible way to escape from this cozy yet inescapable prison. Reasoning quickly, he notes that even without his magic he can at least run, so physical flight might still be an option. He surveys the grounds and observes that the mansion is encircled by plentiful trees and rocks that could serve as hiding spots. He decides his best strategy is to bolt while the girls are busy arguing among themselves and not paying close attention. Seizing a moment, he dashes to the doorway and internally bids the Valkyries farewell, only for one to shout after him calling him husband. A sharp cut shows his face darkening as someone calls his name, freezing him in place before he can truly escape. The next panel reveals him kneeling rigidly in a formal sitting pose, forced down by magic as Shiny orders him to sit, and he reflexively obeys. Cold sweat drips down his face as he realizes his body moved on its own against his will, shocking him into stunned silence. Cheerfully, Shiny laughs that she cannot relax for even a moment around him, interpreting his attempt to run as simple mischief. Ann Suto explains in a calm tone that implanting the jewel of eternal servitude in his chest back then was an excellent decision. A flashback shows a raging fire dragon as Shiny mentions they took that jewel from the Fire Dragon King shortly before invading the Demon King's castle. A separate image displays the eerie, eye-like stone as narration calls it the most coercive of all sorcery jewels. Back in the present, Ja-kurei sits defeated while Ann Suto explains that although the jewel was incomplete, they used it as insurance since it can seal any action from suicide to rebellion and clearly works. Lovely, forming a heart with her fingers, happily lists how the steel jewel also keeps him from running away or biting his tongue, marveling that they managed to subdue him without injuring his eyes. Another heroine suggests that since he is now safe, they should finally explain the nature of this house to Ja-kun. Shiny hugs Kiruru from behind and announces that thanks to Kiruru's efforts she can reveal the secret of where Ja-kun actually is. A comical world map appears, and Shiny points out that his current location is essentially the exact opposite side of the planet from the Demon King's castle, within the remote Kangoku prison region. She further boasts that Kiruru can use space-time magic, allowing her to instantly travel to any place she has previously visited. Ja-kurei breaks into a cold sweat, realizing that this isolated, distant land is the worst possible location, one where he has no hope of rescue. Narration over the mansion notes that the country is underdeveloped with a tiny population and no alliance ties, making it perfect for isolating a prisoner like him. The surrounding forest is depicted with a glowing barrier as Ja-kurei muses that almost no one visits here and yet the heroines still erected a magical wall, perhaps more to keep him from escaping than to stop intruders. His eyes narrow again as he admits he already understands the geography but says there is another aspect of this place that troubles him deeply. Facing the girls, he bluntly asks what became of the war, while Devias solemnly answers that the great Demon King has been defeated and the heroes have claimed victory. Hearing this, Ja-kurei argues that if the world believes the Demon King is still alive, it will never tolerate his continued existence. Shiny reassures him by pointing out that the 5 most outstanding heroes of the human army, themselves included, are all missing, as is the demon army that lost its commander. With theatrical flair she recalls how their ultimate attacks collided, triggered a blinding flash, and caused both sides to vanish, leaving the world confused. She explains that while both armies now obsessively search for their lost leaders, the 5 of them agreed to disappear, leaving the overall outcome of the war ambiguous. A flashback shows one of Ja Kun's armored generals warning that if humans destroy the Great Demon King, they will soon turn that fear toward other humans. The memory continues as the general predicts the world will descend into an age where humans persecute one another, seeing their own kind as a greater threat than any demon. Shiny admits those words continued to haunt her until the very day they confronted Ja Kun, and although his charm influenced her decision, they ultimately chose to be listed as missing. She concludes that rather than fame as heroines, they prioritize the fact that they found the man they love. Smiling softly, she adds that this love is the most important thing for all of them, more than any title or glory. Ja Kure, pressed between 2 clinging girls, tries to comprehend their feelings, noting that although they had homes and families, their youthful faces now carry a strange loneliness. Lovely's eyes gleam mischievously as she suggests using the jewel's power right away and urges Ja Kun to go for a romantic walk with her. Shiny counters with a sharp stare, saying he must be hungry after just waking and promising to cook so much food for him that he will be completely stuffed. Overwhelmed, Ja Kure shouts for them not to command him to go to several places at once, clutching at the glowing jewel as conflicting orders pull his body in different directions. An Suto and Lovely then conspire with dark smiles, proposing to infuse more of An Suto's magic into the gem to strengthen the binding Gios on Ja Kun. Kiruru, looking upside down, panics internally that if this continues she will never get the chance to sleep beside him and kiss him, fearing the others' escalating ideas. A wide shot of the mansion shows Ja Kure realizing that the magical barrier extends just beyond the garden and that he cannot ever break free of the jewel's power, condemning him to endless puppet-like suffering. The girls notice his grim expression, while he frantically asks himself if any escape route still exists and mentally urges the Great Demon King in him to think. Shiny leans closer, accusing him of planning another escape and warning that if he believes he can get off lightly just by losing a horn, she will truly become angry. An Suto smiles at the others and says that while he is simply shy, a bit of taming will still be necessary to make him obedient. Ja Kure wonders if he truly has no choice but to endure life with these nemesis heroines, then concedes that given the circumstances he must accept it for now. He suddenly throws back his head with ominous laughter, arms spread wide as if he has just conceived a sinister plan. Calling the girls naive, he mutters that the 5 people entrusted with the world's hope have turned into love-struck fools with mush for brains. He thinks bitterly that his life now holds little value and that, having escaped death once already, the only strategy left is to exploit their insincere adoration. Eyes blazing, he vows to completely crush their infatuation and disappoint them, boasting that his thousands of years of wicked experience will make it easy. He reminds himself that he has devoured the hearts and bodies of numerous beauties from both the human and demon worlds. Glimpses of a monstrous shadowy form accompany his calculation that, unable to die by his own hand because of the jewel, he can still manipulate these young women into killing him. His gaze grows cold as he recalls how he repeatedly took women, violated them, made them scream, and reveled in their ruin. Standing in a dramatic pose, he remembers how he broke countless victims and toyed with them, turning them into nothing but flesh dolls for his amusement. Smiling faintly, he muses that he has heard the human saying about even a century-old love eventually growing cold. He then brags that he has managed to extinguish the girl's budding love in an instant with his horrific confession, or so he believes. Narrowing his eyes, he now commands them to turn their murderous intent toward him, addressing them directly. Instead, the 4 girls blush even harder and nervously ask if he truly loves sex that much, interpreting his depravity as overwhelming passion. They pounce on him excitedly, declaring that in today's mortal world they have never met a man with such an ideal, insatiable sexual appetite. Devias begins stripping off her top in frantic enthusiasm, declaring they should hurry and get started, while another heroine screams for her to calm down and stop undressing. One girl insists they cannot let such a beautiful, sexy man escape their grasp now that they have him. Another leans in upside down, begging him to embrace her, shatter her, and claim her utterly. Ja Kure lies pinned beneath them, thinking in disbelief that these girls were already insane long before he ever laid a hand on them. Lovely trembles in her underwear, half laughing that for some reason every decision she makes lately seems to go terribly wrong. Kare, face twisted in anguish and drool, yells at them to have some shame and to kill him quickly instead of tormenting him like this. Suddenly blood splatters across his face, and he freezes, realizing the blood is not his own. He turns in horror to see crimson spurting as one of the girls collapses, demanding to know whose blood it is and what is happening. The panel reveals all 5 Valkyries falling to the floor, each of them bleeding heavily and gasping in shock. Kare stands unsteadily amid the carnage, murmuring that he does not fully understand what just occurred, but somehow he has been saved, or perhaps cursed anew. He looks around the quiet, remote room and wonders what to do next, knowing that even humans rarely pass by this place and that no demons will come for 1,000 years. From an aerial view of the mansion and forest, his inner voice admits that his desperate situation remains unchanged and wonders what he should do as his confined life truly begins.